Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 496 days, Ukraine defends itself against the forces of the Russian invasion. Russia attacked the town of Pervomaysk in Kharkiv Oblast with an Iskander missile, reports Ukrinform. The number of people injured reached 43, including 12 children. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky said that the enemy will be held accountable for this strike as well as for all their other strikes. In his evening video address, President Volodymyr Zelensky informed that he had phone calls with the President of France, the NATO Secretary General, and the Prime Minister of Sweden. They focused on Ukraine's defense, situation on the front line, weapons, and the military capabilities. According to the president, they have agreed on new defense packages for Ukraine. The leaders have also coordinated their steps in the run-up to the NATO summit in Vilnius. The General Staff of Ukraine warned that the Russians may soon start provocations at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and placed explosive-like objects on roofs of its two power units, reports Fakty. According to the military, the detonation of these devices should not damage the power units, but it may create an image of a shelling by Ukrainian forces. Russian media and Telegram channels report such actions of their military as well. Volodymyr Zelensky in his address said that the whole world must now realize the situation at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Russia must realize that the world sees what scenarios terrorists are preparing for, and the world is ready to respond. Radiation is a threat to everyone in the world, and the nuclear power plant must be fully protected from any radiation incidents, stressed the president of Ukraine. Zelensky emphasized that the only source of danger to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is Russia and no one else. He reminded that unfortunately there was no timely and large-scale response to the terrorist attack on the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant, and this may incite the Kremlin to commit new evil. It is responsibility of everyone in the world to stop it. No one can stand aside as radiation affects everyone, pointed out the president. Earlier, the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant lost connection with one of the high-voltage lines that supply it with power, reports Ekonomichna Pravda. The Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, said that this time the nuclear power plant managed to avoid a complete loss of external power supply. But this disconnection indicates unreliability in guaranteeing safety of the facility. We would really appreciate if you could rate us, ideally with 5 stars, in the apps where you're listening to this podcast: Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and others. This really helps more people to find out about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. UK Armed Forces Chief Tony Radakin said that the Russian army lost almost half of its fighting capacity in Ukraine, reports Ukrainska Pravda. In particular, last year it used 10 million artillery shells, but in the best case it can produce 1 million shells a year. It has lost 2,500 tanks, and in the best case it can produce 200 new tanks a year. According to the commander, the high density of Russian minefields, the lack of air cover of the Ukrainian forces, and the insufficiently provided military equipment, which was requested by Kiev, complicated the counter-offensive campaign. At the same time, Radakin noted it was unfair to tie Ukrainian offensive actions to a certain time and that the counter-offensive is a set of measures. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky plans to visit Bulgaria at the invitation of the country's new government, reports European Pravda. According to the Bulgarian publication 24 Chasa, the visit will most likely take place on Thursday, 6th of July. Zelensky's visit will take place after lawmakers in the parliament of the last convocation refused to listen to his address in which he wanted to call on Sofia to help Ukraine. Bulgaria's new pro-European government previously confirmed that it supports military aid to Ukraine and approved a new package last week. The Dutch government announced the allocation of the new package of support to Ukraine in 2023 in the amount of more than 118 million euros, which will go to humanitarian needs and economic aid, reports Interfax Ukraine. The package provides, among other things, 93 million euros in humanitarian aid. €83 million will be directed to the reconstruction of Ukraine's healthcare system, including the purchase of medicines and support for mobile hospitals. An additional €10 million are intended to help eliminate the consequences of the Kakhovka dam explosion, and the remaining €875,000 are to support Ukrainian human rights defenders. The second component of the support package, €25 million, is the financing of grants in the fields of agriculture, water supply, and healthcare. It will be possible to apply for grants from September. Additional financial support will also be provided to a Ukrainian company, its name is not disclosed, to open a plant for the production of building materials in western Ukraine. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We are a commercial initiative of just 2 people and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.